Welcome to Trek Trav. I am Trav, and this is Star Trek Enterprise Season 1, Episode 10, Fortunate Son. Now, I went into this episode last week talking about how I thought this was boring. I think I was confusing it with another episode where we go to the horizon, maybe the episode Horizon. But actually really liked this episode. It opens with a cool thing on the Fortunate of the second in command and the captain throwing a football across lower gravity so it flies. Really cool sort of little nod. Then we get them under attack with the Nausicaans. And then we go to the theme, and then we're on Enterprise, and they get told and they go. And basically, they offer help. The captain is unconscious. They offer help to the second in command, and they're not sure what's going on. They just sort of know they were attacked by the Nausicaans. They're pirates. We know from the very beginning that they've captured a Nausicaan, but the Enterprise crew doesn't find out until after they've helped them with a medical thing for the captain, with the engineering stuff. Archer threatens to take all the stuff away unless they get rid of the Nausicaan, of which they deny. They go and attack the Nausicaans, and they get basically bamboozled. The Nausicaan that they captured didn't give them the right shield harmonics, and they get screwed, and the Enterprise comes and saves the day. Basic story. This is a Travis episode, so it's a better episode because he has a cool name. And Travis talks about the horizon and where he grew up and how joining Starfleet is kind of looked down upon because you're meant to continue on these freighters for generations or generationally. Which is interesting because obviously if you're going at low warp speeds, it would take forever to get anywhere. And it's good to learn this is sort of the background workings of Starfleet and the Federation, in that the freighters all go very, very slow speeds. They're transporting cargo. It doesn't really make sense why they wouldn't have the fastest warp drive, because cargo, you want to get to places at a certain speed. But it depends on what they're trading, I suppose. Maybe they're trading something harder. Maybe it's a bit different. Overall, it was really interesting to see Travis sort of talking about his own family and growing up and what it means to be working on a freighter and cargo ships and traveling those distances for lengths of time. At the beginning, he makes an interesting comment about how, because it takes so long to get from one place to another, that they procreate a lot and have a lot of children. We get a nice scene later on of T'Pol working on fixing the Fortunate, and kids are running around and playing hide and seek, and she sees one, and then she has to lie and say she didn't see them. It was actually a really interesting episode in that it was slow, and it was interesting in that we were looking at a part of Starfleet and the Federation we hadn't really seen in terms of, and also the dynamics and the emotions around it, because obviously the Enterprise is a Warp 5 vessel, and as Travis is showing around the second in command, they talk about the transporter and how everyone's scared to use it. They talk about how the Warp 5 engine is super duper fast, and he can see that the second in command guy is curious about these things, but he's very much dedicated to the cargo freight sort of industry, and he expects to be in it forever. Now, we find out a bit of history in regards to his growing up. He was on another cargo ship, and his family was killed, and he joined the Fortunate after that. So they were killed by aliens. So he has a level of revenge when he's going after the Nausicaans. He's sick of the freighter ships being hurt, damaged, destroyed. They do things on their own. He won't accept help. And Archer brings us up, and Travis brings us up quite a lot, where they just don't accept help, which is an interesting sort of thing that you got to think about. Like on these freighters, they have to come up with ways to survive that they don't. They talk about Nutripacks and how that they sometimes have food, but sometimes have to go into like rations. It's a genuinely interesting look at a slower moving sort of dynamic. And I can't help but think that maybe Enterprise could have benefited from being using these kind of things. They didn't have many rations and they didn't have many things. I think the original concept for Enterprise being way before, because basically Rick Berman and Brannon Braga wanted the first season to be building the Enterprise and establishing the crew, and Paramount didn't want that. And this is one of those things where it sort of, in a way, you look at it and you go, this is what the show kind of should have been. It should have been like, it should have been a bit more backward, a bit more coming up, whereas it's sort of essentially Star Trek going on, like essentially like the other TNG era shows. I think the acting was really good in this. I think it's one of those rare Travis episodes where he's used because he's meant to be used. He has experience living on a freighter. He has all of the knowledge. He can develop a relationship with these characters that the other crew can't. And it's one of those things in season 1 where you just think, yeah, you could actually do some good out there because you have more experience than most of the people on this ship. But as we know when we've watched Enterprise, that this doesn't go on forever and Travis sort of gets sidelined. And I don't think Anthony Montgomery's acting is too bad. Like, he does struggle with some of the higher emotions, but he has enough charisma and a really good sort of persona that he can sort of see past that. He's not the strongest actor, but he's certainly not the weakest. I think overall, this episode is a good look at the other worlds of Star Trek. And I think that would have been a nice way to go as well. Like, you could have quite easily gone to some Earth colonies, which they did in, I think maybe in Terra Nova. They went to an Earth colony, but I'd like to see like them establishing how they live and how they survive in these environments where they don't have a direct Earth link. We also get mentioned into this that they're going to be transporting, laying down communication satellites so their communications are better with Earth. To be fair, they are quite far away and their communications probably shouldn't be instantaneous anyway, but we can't, it would take away from the sci-fi-ness. Warp drive is also a failure. Porthos appears in this for 2 seconds. He's asleep and he's adorable. Scott Bakula sort of takes on when he's speaking to the captain. They talk about the morals and how humans are to have they should have a code of just trying to be the best that they can be. And it's an interesting look from him, at the same time a little naive because he is on a Warp 5 starship, and the freighter captains are on these ships that only can go like Warp 1.3, Warp 2. And it sort of shows that juxtaposition where although Travis is the ensign, he actually has more space experience than Archer. So it would have been nice to see that sort of dynamic, or even Archer taking on maybe more of a backseat role and taking more advice from Travis. Like they sort of do that in here, but I don't think that it's super amazing. I don't think that it reached its full potential, although once again, establishing the universe at the time of Enterprise, or the galaxy at the time of Enterprise, is what this episode does best. And I think that if there was more episodes like this in season 1, we probably would have had higher ratings. I think going back to the older formats of sort of Voyager and TNG is not the way they should have gone with Enterprise. But 26 episodes a season, we know that Rick Berman and Brannon were worn out when they created the show. So it sort of takes a little while for them to find a groove for what Enterprise is. Not a lot from any of the other actors in this, but it was actually a really good episode. What did you think about Star Trek Enterprise Season 1, Episode 10, Fortunate Son? Write it in the comments, like and share this video, and I will see you next week for another Enterprise review.